Hey Aquarius, it's Zahara Stars with Illum Astrology talking about Saturn's transit into the sign of Aquarius. Thank you for so much for joining me. I'm going to start with the transit's actually going to occur in March of 2020. It is just going to be a short visit before it turns retrograde back into Capricorn, back into your guys' 12th house. And then it's going to finalize that by December, and then it's going to progress back into Aquarius again, and then by January of 2020 you will experience Saturn in your sign for approximately the next 2.5 years. And this really depends on at what degree this your Aquarius house begins. So this would be relevant for Aquarius risings and Aquarius suns, because Saturn will be entering into your sign. And ascendants, it's your first house of your physical body, and Aquarius, it's going to hit your sun sign. Now, if you have other planets in Aquarius, Saturn will cross over those as well, and the effects will be affecting each one of those planets. So this is a big deal, okay? Saturn is one of your rulers. There are some Aquarians that take on more Saturn-like personalities, which is about structure, convention, tradition, the Lord of Karma, the Lord of Time, restrictions, blockages, and maturity, okay? So Saturn is, the reason why this is going to be really powerful for you guys is because having two opposite rulers is kind of explains the dichotomy of Aquarius type people, kind of explains the sort of erratic, sudden, impulsive, yet stable, able to focus type of energy. But for most Aquarians, early on in your early life, Uranus tends to be more active. And as you get older, Saturn might take over more. But it all depends, because you could be having a Uranus transit, aspecting some of your planets that can totally change things up. So, and plus all the other transits play into it. So I'm not going to get so much into that. But what I'm going to discuss with you right now is the difference between Saturn and Uranus and why it's going to have such a powerful impact on you. First of all, they are completely total opposite planets, okay? Uranus is about the future, and Saturn is about the past, tradition, convention, structure, law and order, while Uranus is the rebel, breaking free, breaking out of structures, and the rebel, right? So Uranus is the planet that is different than most other planets in our solar system, right? It rotates on its side, north and south pole are opposite, indicating unique individual expression, okay? Uranus and Aquarians typically want to take the opposite route of everybody else. And early on, the erratic Uranus energy is very prevalent. It's your goal in life, or your purpose in life, is to go explore and to try the opposite route of everything. And it's a tough path to walk, because you're an outsider. You're automatically maybe even sometimes trying to be an outsider because you don't want to follow what everybody else is doing. And there's a lot to be learned on that other path of the opposite side of breaking free from Saturn's rings. So I guess the best analogy, since I'm so much about analogies, if you guys know me by now, is that Saturn and its rings being about limitations, restrictions, protocols. He's also the Lord of cause and effect, why he's considered karma, okay, the Lord of karma, which is about cause and effect. You get what you give. And when Saturn transits come, karma is usually the number one thing that everybody notices, or if you don't notice it, it's happening, okay? So Saturn being the ringed planet, about restrictions, law and order, government, structure, stability, convention, tradition, you know, and Uranus is like, break free of the rings, right? What's out there? Let's explore, future, technology, robots, planetary exploration, right? Uranus is like, so the analogy I was going to use, is kind of like the Garden of Eden, right? In Saturn's rings, right? It's like, stay in here and within these limitations and these structures and these rules and regulations, and all will be okay. And Uranus is kind of like being the awakener, the illuminator, the sudden shock and awe, the breaking free, the revelations, the pushing forward, is like the tree of good and evil, knowledge, right? It's kind of like, because Uranus is about knowledge. It's all about, you know, what is beyond what you are told, what you see, what is here. And it's the rebel. So Uranus is like, you know what? I'm going outside of this Garden of Eden and I'm going to see what else is out there. Saturn is like, if you go out there and you don't like what you see, it's cause and effect, right? You go outside there, you go explore, you go expand, you go further, 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 further. At what point do you need me and my limitations, restrictions, protocols, rules, regulations, stuff like that? Because Uranus is all about total freedom, total acceptance, total expansion, right? Everything goes. Like, there's no rules and regulations here. Let's just go and see what happens. So Saturn being cause and effect and being the present time, he's like, you know, and Uranus being the future, is complicated because Aquarians can live in the future. We can tend to focus on the future. We could tend to be like, what about tomorrow? What about tomorrow? And Saturn is like, stay here today, because today is where tomorrow is built, right? Saturn is about limitations in order to prevent losses in the future, cause and effect, or in order to prevent accidents, right? But too much limitation and too much restriction can be disabling. It can be blocking. It can limit our abilities, our knowledge, our everything, right? But yet it's good, because too much pushing forward into technology and having AI and robot, forget about zombie apocalypse, we're talking about robot apocalypse in the future, right? Because technology is just gonna go that way. That's Uranus' thing, multi-planetary experiences. You know, we don't know what's out there. It's the unknown. And then technology, you know, pushing ahead with technology. What are the effects? Saturn is like, what are the effects of you going and pushing this much out there? What are the cause and effect? Like, if you don't set proper regulations, boundaries, and restrictions on things, and anything goes, everything is allowed to go, and you just keep pushing, are you going to be happy with where you go, and are you going to be able to fix it once it's done? So Saturn being cause and effect, law and order, restrictions, boundaries, limitations. I know I keep being redundant, but there's completely different energies. And Uranus being the future, no limitations, right? Expand beyond the horizons. They're both very necessary energies, right? And together they're actually really good. They're actually really good. That means that you go and you expand, explore with protocols, regulations. Like, an example would be like when they made the first cars, right? They didn't think about seatbelts at the time. They just put out all these cars and people were crashing and flying out the freaking windows and all the stuff. And they're like, oh, whoa, hold on. Maybe we should put some seatbelts in the cars, or have some sort of protection mechanism before we put them out there, right? That's just a little kind of example, okay? Saturn's like the seatbelt. He's like, put the seatbelt on before you go. Pack your bags, get ready, plan, prepare, all this stuff before you go do this, before you go explore. Because you don't know what you're gonna discover out there, and if you're gonna like it, and then there may not be any coming back, right? Once we build the fastest, strongest, better robot than any human being that ever existed, that can think for itself and who knows what, right? The future is, anything is possible in the future. In the future, we always think everything's not possible, but as we've seen, everything is possible. So you gotta think about the effects of the future, which Aquarians do. We think about the future. We're always like, what about the future? You know, we live in the future. We have ideas. Downloading Uranus is shock and awe, electricity, lightning bolt, the awakener, you know, like, whoa, we aren't this limited. We can do this and that. And let's see how far we can go. But sometimes not having any boundaries, restrictions, law, and order like Uranus, just complete go, no, nothing is wrong, nothing is right, everything's acceptable, just, you know, We have to accept everybody the way they are. We have to, which is freedom to the ultimate potential. But with no laws or regulations like Saturn, it could be dangerous. It could be chaos, right? So we need to find that medium between the two, right? It's like the extreme left and the extreme right. Extreme right Saturn, extreme left Uranus, right? They're extremes, and the extremes is in either extreme in anything is no good. You have to have balance. So the two of them together is where it's all at, right? It's human nature to want to explore past Saturn's rings. It doesn't matter. We're going to always want to go, what's outside of this? We're never going to, and to know the total answer to everything is just pretty much the end, right? So we're always discovering, always exploring. But we do have to take, and Saturn is just that reminder of cause and effect, of living in the now, of what can we do now for tomorrow? And if we do this, what are the long-term effects? How will this affect society? How will it affect future generations? Is there going to be a coming back after that? Is there going to be, do we have all the protocols and everything in place, right? So law and order, structures, boundaries, limitations to a certain degree is good, because without them, we'd have chaos, right? We need law and order. We need some kind of structure of like, okay, but finding that medium, finding that happy medium between liberty, freedom, exploration, and all this stuff, and some sort of guiding, limitation. I hate using the word limitation because I'm an Aquarius. But, I've learned to appreciate Saturn as I got older, because Saturn is like, you go into the future where it's all robot mania and space and metal, and the history and our humanity is left behind, and the future's everybody's half robot, right? We don't have that humanity, that the physical body, pretty much, or whatever. And I got to thinking about the two, Saturn and Uranus, and I thought, is there going to be a point where we're going to want to go back and go, you know what? I wish it was just back in that Garden of Eden, right? We went too far out here, and now there's like no trees, and it's all metal, and I'm in a dome. I know I get these crazy thoughts, but that's Uranus, because Uranus is about exploration of the future, going where nobody's gone before, technology, right? And Saturn is about convention and tradition, holding on to traditions that are meaningful and that have some purpose, of making you feel home or something. But to us Aquarians, we kind of feel home sometimes in the other galaxies that we go to in our minds sometimes, right? So this is something that's going to come up during Saturn's transit in Aquarius, okay? And to give you the physical effects of Saturn, Saturn is serious. He's mature. He's the father of time. He's lived multiple lifetimes. Sorry. He's the father of time. So he's like, in all the time that I've known, history repeats itself. We end up doing this to, whatever his knowledge is. He's going to show us this because he shows us a mature lens to look through, right? Of cause and effect, of living in the now and the present. And because he's so serious and so pragmatic and traditional, you feel this energy because you're kind of going to start seeing things through Saturn's view and perspective, through the lens that he gives you when he transits to your sun. That means you're going to look at your physical body with a very serious, mature lens. You're going to look at your personality. You're going to look at all the things that you've done in your life with a very mature, serious, pragmatic lens. And it can be a little heavy at first because Saturn's kind of a heavy energy because he's real darn serious. He's like, the opposite of Uranus. Uranus is like, all over. We're like, hey, I got this idea. I got that idea. I got this idea. And Saturn just kind of puts this dome over you that's like, stop. And he puts you in the present. And you start to think about everything around you, surrounding you, your body, your personality, everything you've created. He doesn't bring anything into your life. He shows you what you've brought into your life. So he just shows you a reality of his reality, of cause and effect, of time, of being in the present rather than the future. And so all Aquarians are going to slow down because Saturn is slow, methodical, pragmatic. Think about the consequences, right? So Aquarians are going to take on a lot more pragmatic, serious approach to everything in their life. Right? It's going to be very interesting because Saturn slows things down. That's the restrictions, boundaries, and blockages and limitations. And with your sun, if it's your sun sign that Saturn is going to be conjuncting, you're going to take a cold, hard look at yourself, who you are, your personality, your identity, the way you present yourself. And you're going to have a more conventional, pragmatic look at it all. And a lot of people with Saturn transits seriously turn more traditional, more serious, more mature, more calm. They just feel this like this slow, heavier energy that is really about focusing on what really truly matters from a mature perspective. So I've seen younger people get hit by Saturn that start acting so old, mature and old, like very conscious, aware of themselves, very like, you know, and you're like, what happened to you? But that's Saturn. When I had him transiting my first house, I'm a Scorpio rising, I was slowed down to the maximum potential of being slowed down in my physical body. I started noticing all my flaws, everything. I was like, ugh. I noticed flaws in everybody. The people I had in my life, I was like, what did I get involved with that person for? And oh no. And it's like, because Saturn is about perfection and refinement too, right? He's about high standards, perfection, refinement, maturity, tradition, doing the right thing, law and order, government, all these things. So you take on this serious energy, whether you want to or not. Trust me, you cannot be all under Saturn. Saturn, just energy is just like, whoa, okay, let me, you know, and you can start to feel guilty, start to feel bad, start to criticize yourself, start to criticize people in your life because he's like, higher standards. Set that bar up higher. You know, look at everything. Because he shows you all the flaws and the faults, right? You want to perfect and better because you're looking at things through the ugly lens is what I call it. And when you're looking at things at such a, you know, at a higher standard, things become not good enough, including people in your lives, relationships you're in, your physical body. You start like working out, going to the gym, getting surgery, whatever it takes, because you're just like, I am not good enough. Whoa, what's this? I never noticed that before. Or, you know, oh, that thing I did was so embarrassing. Suddenly you become aware and care because Saturn rules the 10th house of fame and legacy and your place in the world and how people see you. And he's like, look, what kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? How are people going to talk about you when you're gone? How are people going to know about you? And Aquarius, we're very much like, who cares? I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm me and that's it. But with Saturn, suddenly people become kind of important and you're kind of like, well, did I leave a good mark? Am I somebody that's been reliable, dependable, consistent? Am I a good person? Have I done, you know, what have I done? You know, you just start to analyze everything because Saturn is about higher morals, higher standards, perfection, you know, having a sort of presence about you that's admirable and respectable. I know it's like the completely different energy. So what can happen is you can start to work out, change your image, maybe even go more conventional and traditional. I know. You can start taking better care of your health. You're going to start analyzing yourself and the people you have in your life. Now, positively, Saturn ruling the 10th house of fame and legacy and all that stuff, there can be, if you've been working really hard towards your goals and you've been structured and you've been, you know, doing what it takes, he can boost you. You can get promotion, you can get recognition, you can get acknowledgement. If you're single, you can end up getting married. Like you just want to have a traditional relationship because Saturn's tradition. You want to be serious. You're like, I think I want to be serious and have a traditional relationship before I never get the opportunity to experience it, right? Aquarians want to experience everything, right? So why not the traditional relationship? But it's about focusing on the things that matter, seeing things that matter, looking at what you value, looking at the past, looking at the history, looking at the tradition, looking at that, and then looking at the future, and finding your middle ground in it all, finding that balance, how to put your great ideas into solid, into solid accomplishments, building towards that goal, being in the now, not in the future, being in the now, right? He slows you down. So you're very slow, and you're like, okay, now I'm analyzing everything. Now I can put together a plan. You're very serious and very focused too. Very serious and very focused. So you can put together solid plans. Take better care of your health, care more about your image perhaps, how you present yourself to the world. How do people see you? Do you want to be more reliable? Do you want to be more respectable? Do you want to, whatever it is, that's Saturn. And that's the energy that Saturn's going to bring. So it's completely different than Uranus. It's going to slow down a lot of Aquarians to take a cold, hard, serious look at things, and really, your life experience has led you all the way here, taking the other route, learning, expanding, all the knowledge you gain through everything. You get to see what works and what doesn't. You rule the 11th house of groups, associations, humanity, the collective, the future. How can you improve the future? Have you learned anything through all your life lessons? And if you're younger, you're still in the process of learning, and the Saturn transit is going to make you really serious. Okay, it's going to make you really serious. It just does. Saturn is serious. So more conscious, aware of yourself, your behavior, of others, just like you're just suddenly slowed down enough to see everything. So, but there are big jumps that can be made. Now, if you have other planets in Aquarius, like your moon, Venus, all of that, they're going to all go through Saturn's seriousness, refinement, perfectionism, focusing on the goal, staying in the now, having higher standards, very high standards. Suddenly you're going to be like, oh, I deserve better. I want better. I want, it's just Saturn's energy. It's just Saturn's energy. So if he's going to hit all your other Aquarius planets, you got to also look at the house he's transiting, okay? So some of you may have your sun in Aquarius in the 6th house. So Saturn conjuncting there will be a primary focus on fitness and health regime and taking care of your body and your daily tasks and your work, your day-to-day work. If your sun is in the 10th house and Saturn's going to conjunct it, it's all about your place in the world, how people see you, your career. Are you in the right career? Do you want to be in a better place? Are you working hard enough to get there? Those types of things. So it all depends on what house Aquarius is for you. You're going to have to focus in that area more so. But nonetheless, Saturn is very serious, very, very, very serious, very traditional, very, very high expectations. So that's why you could be so critical of yourself and others, because the expectation is so high. It's like I said, he shows you all the faults, all the weakest links, all the weak things in your life, all the things that aren't working for you, all the people in your life that aren't working for you, your job isn't working for you, whatever. Your place of home, if it's in your 4th house of home, do I want to live here forever? Do I want to move somewhere else? Or am I living with my parents? I got to move out. It all depends. I'm going to be doing transits with Saturn transits through the houses. I've been doing some of them, so you can check my playlist to see. I have Saturn transiting the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I think 5th, 7th, all the way through 7th and 8th. Yeah. So you can check out those to see what to expect with him transiting specific houses. But otherwise, a lot of Aquarians are going to be pretty darn serious for a little while, and it's going to be very interesting to see. I'm an Aquarius, so if I come back in my next video with a good afternoon, Aquarians, right? Who knows? But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. You know how much I love you. I'm sending you guys the best, all the best, always. And do check back for some of my other videos as they come. I'm sure I skipped some things here with the Saturn transit in Aquarius. Maybe I'll do a second part if I think of more stuff to cover. I kind of do these off the cusp. So I hope you guys found it helpful. I'm sending you guys all the best again. Until next time.